Hi everyone, welcome to video 6 of multiple linear regression, and here we're going to go through the check your learning exercise for our example of simultaneous multiple linear regression. And we are looking at the effects of political orientation and donut love on support for legalizing marijuana. I thought this was a fun combination of predictors, and both political orientation and donut love correlate. We don't have the bivariate correlations here, but both of these IVs correlate significantly with support for legalizing marijuana. So this regression analysis will tell us which independent variables uniquely predicted support for legalizing marijuana after accounting for their shared overlap, right? We're partialing out, controlling for that black shaded area, right, in our Venn diagram. So what is the unique overlap between political orientation and support for legalizing marijuana? What's the unique overlap between donut love and support for legalizing marijuana? This regression analysis will tell us. So let's first begin with the first sentence, where we tell the audience what analysis we did and why. So here we conducted here's simultaneous regression to test the unique effects of blank and blank and blank. All right, so the first two blanks are for our independent variables. So political orientation and donut love. Love of donuts on support for legalizing marijuana. All right, so that's the analysis we did, what we did it. So yeah, that's the first sentence. Second sentence is about or I should say the second paragraph is about the significance of the overall regression model. So let's begin with our F stats. So F, and then we need the degrees of freedom between and within. So 2 and then 74. Our actual F value here, 0.035. Holy crap, I screwed that up, right? That was the p-value. Our actual F value here, 3.50. Yikes. 0.50. P-value equal 0.035. There we go. So F274 equals 3.5, p-value of 0.035. So the overall regression model was significant, given that our p-value was significant here, less than or equal to our criteria of 0.05. So we know, given that our overall regression model was significant, we know that there's at least, right, at least one of our independent variables here, political orientation or donut love, uniquely predicts our DV support for legalizing marijuana. But we don't know if it's political orientation that wins out here. Is it donut love that wins out, or is it a draw? And that both significantly, uniquely predict our DV. We don't know until we look at the coefficients table. But we first have to talk about our square for the overall model. So our square here is 0.086. So the IVs overall explain 8.6% of the variability in support for legalizing marijuana. So the total amount, right, the total contribution of the independent variables here is 8.6%, which is A. And so we'll have to look at the overall R value here. The R value is 0.29, and so we can apply the guidelines for lowercase r. And so 0.29 here, that is in between 0.2 and 0.39, so that is a moderate percentage. So again, we can look at R here, and we can apply the same guidelines in determining whether there's a small, moderate, or large percentage based upon the R value here. We can apply the same guidelines and determine for lowercase r as in uppercase r here. So again, 0.29 falls in between 0.20 and 0.39, so moderate, medium percentage. All right, so we can go to the coefficients table and find out if political orientation uniquely predicts support for legalizing marijuana versus doughnut love in uniquely predicting support for legalizing marijuana. So the first predictor here is political orientation. So if we go to the coefficients table here, look for the row for political orientation. Political orientation, we have a beta value of 0.23 and a p value of 0.039. So 0.23, p value equal to 0.039. So given the p value here of 0.039, political orientation did uniquely predict support for legalizing marijuana. Political orientation is a significant predictor. There is significant unique overlap between political orientation and support for legalizing marijuana. And then our 95% confidence interval, 0.03 and 1.04. 0.03. 0.03, 0.03, 0.03, and then 1.04. Right. And then now doughnut love, beta value for doughnut love is 0.18 with a p-value of 0.11. So given our p-value of 0.11 here, doughnut love is a non-significant predictor. So doughnut love here is a non-significant predictor. Our p-value of 0.11 is far enough away from 0.05, right? P-values are significant if they're less than or equal to 0.05. In this case, 0.11, non-significant. So doughnut love did not uniquely predict support for legalizing marijuana. So political orientation, but not doughnut love, had significant unique overlap with support for legalizing marijuana. And so 95% confidence interval here, we have negative 0.05 and 0.422. So negative 0.05, right? 0.05, yeah. And then 0.42. And just to, fresh your memory, SPSS is assessing whether this beta value here is significantly different from 0, right? So 0 would indicate there is no unique overlap between doughnut love and support for legalizing marijuana. And so SPSS is assessing whether this beta value of 0.18 is significantly different from 0. And so this p-value of 0.11 is telling us that, this beta value of 0.18 is not significantly different from 0. Right? So we're treating the relationship between doughnut love and support for legalizing marijuana as essentially 0. There is 0% unique overlap between doughnut love and support for legalizing marijuana. And you'll also notice, as an aside here, that we have our confidence interval starts with a negative number, or it is between the confidence interval here includes a negative number and a positive number. So you can see that 0 falls in between is included in the confidence interval, which is an indication that doughnut love did not uniquely predict support for legalizing marijuana. You notice that whenever we have a significant unique beta value here, when we have a significant unique predictor, 0 never falls in the confidence interval here. So the confidence interval for political orientation, 0.03 to 1.04, 0 does not fall inside that confidence interval. But here, for doughnut love, it does, because we have a non-significant p value. Right. So when it comes down here in saying the 95% confidence intervals here, we would say did not overlap, right? We're saying the confidence intervals did not overlap because we're essentially treating donut love, the relationship between donut love and support for legalizing marijuana. We're essentially saying that beta value equals 0, right? This beta value is not significantly different from 0, so we're treating that beta value essentially as 0, right? So for treating the beta value as 0 here, right, the confidence intervals do not overlap because 0 does not fall inside the confidence interval for political orientation. So again, we're treating the relationship between donut love and support for legalizing marijuana, we're treating that as essentially 0. 0 does not fall inside the confidence interval for political orientation, right? So we would say the 95% confidence intervals did not overlap, so, oh crap, I forgot to fix this. this should say, effectively this should have said political orientation or donut love. My mistake. So the choices should be here, neither IV, political orientation, donut love. So here we would say that political orientation better predicted support for legalizing marijuana. Political orientation was a significant predictor, donut love was not, so political orientation better predicted support for legalizing marijuana. Political orientation was the only significant predictor in this case. And we can reiterate that in our conclusion here in saying that political orientation, we can say conservatism did uniquely predict support for legalizing marijuana and political orientation, but not love of donuts. Uniquely predicted support. Support for legalizing marijuana. Yeah, I like that. Political orientation, conservatism, but not love of donuts. Uniquely predicted support for legalizing marijuana. Actually, I'm going to take out the conservatives. I'll just say political orientation, but not love of donuts. Uniquely predicted support for legalizing marijuana. And then in the second part of the conclusion here, we'll talk about what the direction of the effect was and how strong it was. That is in between political orientation and support for legalizing marijuana. So in order to do this, we have to find out how the political orientation item was worded in the BOTS survey. So if we go to the Canvas course page, go to the BOTS survey, look at the political orientation question. I coded these items as a continuous variable with conservative equals 1, moderate equals 2, and then liberal equals 3. So higher values on this item, higher scores indicate a more liberal political orientation. Right. So here, the beta value is positive, and so we can interpret this just like a correlation value. So beta 0.23, there's a positive relationship in between political orientation and support for legalizing marijuana, right? So the DV here, I think marijuana should be carefully legalized and regulated, like cigarettes and alcohol. So higher values for this particular item indicates, more support for legalizing marijuana. In this case, for the politics question, higher values indicate a more liberal political orientation. So more liberal political orientation, more support for legalizing pot. So more liberal participants reported to be or as participants reported to be more liberal, they somewhat reported greater support for legalizing marijuana. So in conclusion, political orientation, but not love of donuts, uniquely predicted support for legalizing marijuana. As participants reported to be more liberal, they somewhat reported greater support for legalizing marijuana. I'm using somewhat because the IVs overall explained about 8.6% of the variability. That was a moderate percentage. If we look at the beta value here for political orientation was 0.23. And so if we're treating that like a correlation value, this would be a moderate relationship. So that's why I'm saying somewhat. So as participants reported to be more liberal, they somewhat reported greater support for legalizing marijuana. So that's our conclusion for the check your learning exercise. If you want more practice, there is a check your learning exercise. I mean, there is a more practice exercise here, looking at the effects of math anxiety and stats anxiety on expected grade. So how do math anxiety and stats anxiety uniquely predict expected grades in the course, right? So if you want to do that practice exercise, yeah, I have the medal right up here, and so you can do that, and then I will post the answer key in the PowerPoint here. There's also the question of what the Venn diagram would look like for the check your learning exercise. Almost forgot to include this, right? So we have political orientation and donut love as our independent variables. We have legalizing pot as our DV, right? So political orientation was a significant unique predictor of legalizing pot, but donut love was not, right? So our Venn diagram would look something like this, right? So there is unique overlap between all three variables here, but political orientation, right, has unique overlap with legalizing pot in here, but donut love does not. As you can see, or do something like that, right? So political orientation has unique overlap with legalizing pot, but donut love does not. As you can see, there's no unique overlap between legalizing pot and donut love here. But political orientation still has unique overlap, but maybe a little bit smaller here since it's only supposed to be a moderate amount of overlap, so maybe something like that would be the most accurate Venn diagram here. Yeah. I know this looks very messy. So maybe that's a little bit clearer. So the blue circle here represents donut love, the green circle political orientation, and then there's unique overlap between political orientation and legalizing pot, but there is no unique overlap between donut love and legalizing pot. So political orientation wins out here. Right. So again, if you want more practice, there's the more practice problem here. I encourage you to. And then next week, we will talk about the difference between simultaneous and hierarchical multiple regression. So I won't put up the quiz just yet because we have to talk about hierarchical multiple regression before we do the lecture quiz.